Welcome to Conversations on Sex, Addiction, and Relationships. I'm Wendy Conquest, and I'm here with therapists Tim Stein, Jeannie Vitoni, and Dan Drake. We're going to broach an interesting topic today. So a lot of times the focus is on healing the relationship with sex addiction and betrayal trauma, and how does the couple move forward from that. Unfortunately, sometimes people will decide to separate, decide to divorce, decide if they're not married, decide to end the relationship. And so today we wanted to broach the topic of what's it like when a sex addict or a partner is no longer in the relationship, and how do they move forward? What are some of the challenges that they face? And so that's what we're talking about today.
There's another wrinkle in there, which is it might be an addict who's single who enters into recovery. And so it's not necessarily that they've gotten out of a relationship. It's I'm single, I'm in recovery. How do I date?
Great point, Tim. Yes. So I was in active addiction. Now I'm not. Now I'm looking to be in a relationship. And I think so. One of the biggest questions that comes up is, so when to have, it's commonly referred to as the talk. The talk being, when do I tell this new person that I am a sex addict?
But here's my simple answer, and then we'll expand on this. Not the first date, before sex.
Say again. Say that once more.
Not on the first date, before sex.
On the two ends of the spectrum. So
on the two ends of
you don't do it on the first date, but you do it before having sex with that person. Is that what you're saying, Tim?
That is what I'm saying.
Okay. Not on the first date, but before being sexual.
I can agree.
What about fooling around? So
that's where the nuances come in.
Yes. So yes, and also I want to also get into what it sounds like.
Well, let's back up and let's start with the question of.
Yep.
I'm going to put it this way, and I'm my answer to this question in advance is yes. But let's start with the question: is it an important conversation to have if you are an addict and you're dating?
Yes. And take it from there.
Yes. Well, so that's a great question. Why? So I think that a number of reasons why. I think one of the first pieces is that it becomes part of somebody's history.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they were in a relationship before and that relationship ended, usually the sex addiction is part of why it ended. And so to negate that part, I think, is being dishonest, even if it's dishonesty with a mission. And that's not what recovery is all about. Recovery is about being honest and transparent.
And can I expand on that too, Wendy? Because I think that, if someone's single, maybe they don't have this issue the same way. But if you've been in a relationship, we know that when relationships end after sexual betrayal, it's oftentimes, so sometimes it's the behaviors themselves that ended, but a lot of times it's the deception and lying and all that stuff. That's what kills the relationship. So to me, like you said, Wendy, if this is you're starting a new relationship, you want to start it with honesty. You don't want to start it with more lies, even if it's by omission, because in my experience, the longer you wait, the harder it is then to now share this. And now we have the same cycle can happen again, which is incredibly problematic.
I think when I hear the discussion, I'm picking up the word, Dan, for your example, when I'm starting a relationship. And that's really nuanced for a lot of people. When is it a relationship? And so to have that conversation, transparency, rigorous honesty, a little bit, this is my history, this is where I am, this is how my recovery is defining for oneself where is the relationship versus dating. And I think that's a very individualized process of definition as well. Although I just want to also say publicly, I agree that yes, if you're starting a relationship, the importance of integrity, of saying, this is who I am, this is part of my history, this is part of my future, this is my new way of life. Disclosure is really important. It starts the relationship on a really transparent level. Wendy?
I'm going to throw in another monkey wrench, which is that I find that a lot of sex addicts are sex and love addicts. And so I find with, I'm going to say men and women who identify with sex addiction, they will, if the relationship ends, they will start dating somebody, and then all of a sudden it becomes a relationship pretty quick. And so what I have been, I'm going to say, suggesting to a lot of people who are back dating is just that, Jeannie, is, hey, let's talk about what dating is. It means going out for coffee, having an hour with that person and saying, wow, I like you. Nice talking with you. Let's do this again, maybe in a couple of weeks. And
not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow, not later in the day, but in a couple of weeks. And I get a lot of pushback on that. But what if I really like them? But what if I find, that I'm attracted to them? What if, they're going to go out and date somebody else? What if?
Yeah, the trust is hard, isn't it? Because it is. It's like, I want to meet up with them again tomorrow, and I want to do it the next day. And addicts, when it comes to relationships, sometimes have a hard time with that trust. I trust that this will evolve the way it's supposed to. I want to get back, though, to the question on why it's important to have the conversation about I'm an addict before being sexual. I don't love this analogy, but I'm going to go with it anyway. If I'm inviting or asking someone to be sexual with me, and I'm a sex addict, the act of being sexual is potentially my addiction. And so if somebody is going to be involved in a behavior where they might unintentionally be wrapped up in my addiction, I think that they have a right to know that. And so it's just saying, hey, before we step into this, here's what I do to keep myself safe. Here's what I do to keep myself contained. But you have a right to know that this is in the mix if you're going to step into this sexual experience with me. I was going to use an alcohol analogy, but I'll say I think it's the same as if somebody has an STD. That is something that you disclose before you open up to being sexual with another person, so that they have the information and they're making an informed choice about stepping into that sexually intimate experience with you, knowing the risks.
This right there is one of the things that so many betrayed partners didn't get in the relationship where the discovery and the addiction was occurring. And so this is an opportunity with a new person, if when you're ready and everybody agrees in your recovery community that you're ready to be dating, is to be making that choice to be sexual, is informing. That's back to the transparency and integrity piece.
Yeah.
This is doing it differently.
It's very interesting because, Tim, as soon as you said, if you had an STD, you would divulge, this is sex addiction. I think I heard you say is similar to that. I think I heard you say. And so I can just picture the faces, right, of some of my clients, and shame just devours them, and saying, well, either I'm never going to date, but I'm never going to tell somebody, right, of my sex addiction. That's, until maybe never, or until it gets really serious. So how do we mitigate the shame?
Isn't that part of, that's good recovery work, right? I was going to back us up a little bit and decide, how do I know when I'm ready to date? If I'm full of shame for my behaviors and I haven't really worked through some of my trauma, am I really in a place where I'm ready to take this on?
Or am I just using whoever I date as a way to numb and not feel my pain and shame? And so I'm really using, again, it's that love addiction. I'm using them and the experience of dating them as my hit.
And I'll throw in another piece. If a relationship has ended, there's the grieving process after a relationship ends.
Right.
And so by dating right away, we're short-circuiting that really important piece.
So I love that question, Dan. How do you know if you're an addict and you're single for whatever reason you're single, how do you know if you're in a healthy space and you're ready to date?
You asking me? You just putting that out there.
You asked the question.
Well, okay, so I pulled from different things. I think Alex Katahakis with Erotic Intelligence, she has like a dating plan. There's also my old supervisor Nancy Sobel. She had some plans that I kind of pulled from. I put together a list of questions to consider if someone was wanting to do healthy dating. First of all, is someone willing to do this? And it's not like there's right answers. It's more of a self-exploration done with a trusted guide or with a team. So if I can do this, if I'm impulsively doing something or compulsively doing something, that's worth really looking at. Maybe I'm not quite ready or if I don't want to lean on my team and I'm hiding it from people, those are not great signs that I'm ready. So I guess if someone's willing to do this investigation, I don't know that we can say there's like a green light that says, okay, you're good, you passed the inspection, you're ready to go or something. I don't think it works like that. But I think I would say if someone's really built their solid recovery team, they've gotten some sobriety over their behaviors, they've done, if they were single to begin with, it may be a little different. But if they were partnered and now healing that rupture after betrayal and kind of healing from the loss of the relationship, all that stuff. And then I think, having built your good team, you're leaning on your team and your trusted guides to kind of hopefully, the more people I can build in my team that can see into my life and say, yeah, I think you're just using this person. I don't think you're really ready. You feel like this feels addict-y to me. Those people that can really share love, but also, speak into your life. I think I see that when someone, and they're doing it in consultation, they're really trying to be wise and intentional about it. All those things.
I love all of that. I sometimes think about a timeline, and many therapists that I know will tell somebody when they break up with a relationship to give yourself a year, be single for a year before you even think dating. And I think that with sobriety, ideally have at least a year of sobriety under your belt before you step into being ready to date somebody else that, you've been single, you've been present, you've been able to tolerate and manage the difficulties of life without having to use your addiction to escape. You're in a better space to be able to step into a relationship with someone else in a healthy way without unintentionally using them either as a sex object or a love and relationship object.
Okay, so I'm going to wind back because this idea of am I ready to date?
Yeah.
And Dan, I love when you were saying, this not checklist, but that's where I went in my mind. There's no perfect list that green light go. However, you all have also talked about some items to review and explore. So just kind of recapping, I'm curious what we're missing. So far, we've heard sober, good sobriety or knowledge and process of recovery, having a team to consult with, not hiding, not isolating, being open and talking to others. Some time has elapsed, whether that's from your ending your previous relationship or being out of a relationship, whether it was long-term commitment or not. Intentional of relational with people and not objectifying, dealing with your own grief. Okay, so that's what I've got so far. I'm recapping for listeners. What might be some other factors that if you were helping someone, am I ready to date? Are there any other factors that you might throw out there for them to consider?
Yeah. So I think when Tim says don't date for a whole year, again, I can see people's faces
or their eyeballs going, what?
Are you crazy? So I think we need to go deeper into a definition of dating. And so again, I'm holding sex addiction and love addiction for the male addicts, certainly for female addicts, but definitely for male addicts too, is can you start seeing people, the population that you're attracted to as friends? Can you be building relationships with people that so it's this whole deconstructing in the brain of objectification, of my getting my needs met, or different tactics around, I'm going to use different tactics to get what I need or what I think I need. So it could be people pleasing, it could be violation of their own boundaries, it could be tactics around being demanding. So basically, also in these coffee dates or going out to dinner or what have you, is really them finding out where they stand on all these different levels of connection and relationship.
So, talking about healthy coping skills and personal boundary systems, and also deconstructing what is my interest in this other person and how to assess, am I seeing them as a friend or am I seeing them as a sexual partner? Or can I see the friendship part of the person?
That.
Okay.
So
okay.
whether I would be interested in a more romantic, sexual, intimate relationship, how do I relate to them as a friend first?
Okay. Which is building that healthy intimacy, emotional intimacy. That is one of the key components that keeps an addict in health, rather than sexual intimacy. We're talking about emotional intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which I think focusing, and this is more kind of abstract, but building intimacy, not intensity. Addiction is fantasy based and intensity based. And of course, here's where it gets tricky, right? The beginning of any relationship or dating experience is going to have dopamine, because there's some novelty and there's some excitement with it. So you're going to have that. But is the primary thing, I'm looking for intensity here, and versus I'm trying to build the other components of intimacy. Can I just say one thing? You when you brought this in, Wendy, you were talking about dating post. So this was also potentially for partners. I'm wondering, we have so much to talk about on the addict side. I wonder if this is another conversation for partners, because I realize we haven't even talked partners yet.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Let's do another episode that's all about partners, because I wouldn't want to neglect that side, which is a whole different ball of issues and items to discuss.
Hang on just a second. Should I redo the intro? And this one is just about addicts, and then I'll say, then we're going to do a second one for betrayal trauma. So redo the intro.
Don't redo the intro.
Don't redo it. We'll just go with what it is.
We'll put a little something in here.
Okay.
What do you mean a little something in here?
I'll do that. I agree. I really think that we should do a second episode all about partners and what dating, if you have been a betrayed partner, would look like. Because you're right, there's a lot there. We don't want to water down this conversation, but we also don't want to give short shrift to the partner piece. So I know at the beginning of this, we said we're talking about dating for both addicts and partners, and that is not accurate. We are going to do this episode just as the addicts, and we'll do a whole different episode on dating if you're a partner.
And this is a perfect example right there, because you get into a subject. Again, this kind of work is complex. And so you get into a subject and you think you're going to be focused here, and then wait a second, there's this whole other piece that we need to talk about. So while we give big apologies to our listeners, the part is, it's also a demonstration of how complex and nuanced this work is. And being an addict, sex addict, or betrayed partner is, and we understand that. So, all right. So coming back to dating.
Well, I'm really curious about the dating plans, because I regularly will refer people to, I think it's the SLAA New York City meeting, one of those meetings, but on the website, they have a very full dating plan that they share online. And so it's very specific around, I won't kiss anyone for X number of times meeting. When will I bring someone back to my home? When will I kiss somebody, and under what conditions? when will I divulge my addiction, right? So there's these very, very specific questions that the person has to stop and consider. And with every person that I've given this plan to, they're like, wow, like I never thought of any of these. Like I just didn't think about it. Do they violate the plan? Sure, that happens, but at least it's raising awareness, and there's a consciousness piece that comes with it. Dan, is that kind of along the lines, or is the
Yeah, I think SLA has probably the most robust, dating plan that I've seen. I don't know what you guys would say, but I think so. And what I like about that, what you're saying, Wendy, if someone has a written plan and then they don't honor their own agreement to themselves, that gives us a lot to process and talk about. So if this is your intention, this is what you said you wanted, and then you did this X, you wanted X, you did Y. Now what? And it gives us a lot to process. So I actually think it's really helpful. Hopefully they can honor their own agreements, but if they don't, that gives us a lot that we can work with. So yeah, I don't know what you guys would say, what you've seen.
I really like those agreements. And back to, when are people appropriate to date? If this is the one I'm thinking of, it's like no sex until you've had 13 dates. And I always laugh when I have the addicts come in and say, well, we had coffee and then we went to a movie and then I took her out for dessert afterwards. And so that's 3 dates. And I'm like, no, we have one date on one day. And then I usually have to limit the number of dates they can have per week because they want to like get those 13 dates in as quickly as possible. But when I think about those dating plans, like I'm not going to kiss them for however long. We're not going to progress whatever that progression along sort of the sexual physical intimacy continuum is. For me, what always makes that so important is by putting sex further down the path of dating, it makes it easier for us to recognize, who is this other person really? How safe are they to be vulnerable with, emotionally, interpersonally, intellectually? And what we know is that when we're sexual with somebody else, all the neurochemicals that fire off in our brain create a sense of bonding and connection with that other person, which gets in the way of acknowledging and recognizing, how safe are they? Who is this person really? Like Dan was saying, when we're first dating, there's going to be all kinds of dopamine going off in our brains. It's that first couple weeks to first several months of rose-colored glasses that this person is perfect. And if we don't allow that to sort of fade off so we can see, who is this person in reality, and how good of a match are we? How well are we able to function as a couple moving forward? If we put sex too early in the mix, it makes that real assessment of, are you a good partner for me and am I a good partner for you? It just makes it so complicated. So I really appreciate those kind of dating plans because they push that physical sexual stuff out far enough so that we can better recognize, hey, who would really be a good fit for me relationally? And it makes that a less complicated, fuzzy factor.
Yeah. And Tim, what you're saying,
Go ahead.
just reminds me of a piece, which is, if you're starting to think that you're serious about somebody, will you introduce them to your friends before becoming serious? Doesn't have to be family, but your friends. And so a lot of times our friends will say, what are you thinking? Like, wow, or, wow, that person was really nice, but I noticed certain things. Can I share them with you? And I think that addicts traditionally and compulsively think that they know what's best for them, and they don't. So it breaks open this, can I trust the people around me to give me feedback? And can I hear it?
This is going back to what Dan was talking earlier about, talking with your recovery group. And I'm thinking, in life of recovery, it is a lifestyle change to live in consultation with trusted people. And who you date and decide to engage in a relationship with, of whatever definition you choose, it's using the same recovery lifestyle of sharing this, not isolating, sharing this with others, running it through with others to see if you're missing anything in your blind spots. So whether we're talking about a new job, maybe dating, or dating a particular person and becoming a little more serious, it's still applying the same framework, which is do not live and make choices in isolation and seek others' thoughts and opinions about it. You're the addict is the ultimate decision maker, but it's using the same protocol that they hopefully have been using and learning throughout their sobriety recovery journey. So I'm just in my mind, I'm like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah.
You know, when do I start dating? Well, what did your people say? You know?
Dan, you want to
yeah, there
go,
this
Dan.
is it's a bit of, and I appreciate that. It kind of makes me think of the isolation part. And it's a whole, I don't know if you all have seen this, but there's a whole subset of people that haven't been in a committed long-term relationship who, you know, maybe got hooked on porn early and then they never have had a significant long-term relationship. So they could be 20, 30, 40, 50, you know, it could be late. Who knows? There's this subset of people. So now it's not just about, I have these limitless opportunities and I have, you know, glom onto somebody. Now it's this, I've had this whole history where I haven't really had a significant attachment with another person. And now how do I even do that? It's porn is promises a lot because you know, it you don't have to face rejection when you're looking at porn or whatever you're doing online. So it promises a lot. The problem is if I never actually put myself out there, then I never learn how to engage. I you know, so I guess there's a lot of these social skills that we sometimes have to teach some of our clients. I don't know if you've seen that. So it's just a different type of plan. I mean, I've had some of my clients just getting out there and talking to someone as a human being, doesn't even forget dating, forget anything. It's just, can you actually have a conversation with someone when you're at the grocery store checking out, you know, it just like a one-off kind of casual conversation versus just the shame and putting your head down and not saying anything. So I'm just curious, this is a whole other type of dating plan to deal with that kind of rejection that someone is so afraid of. I'm curious what you guys do with those situations.
I think I'm just really thankful that you brought that perspective in, Dan, because so far today we've been talking about the over sexualized sex addict, but we haven't really talked about the fearful, the shame based, or just no practice, like you talked about, the 20-year-old porn addict who hasn't been in a social experience and teaching them those social skills. And so that's a really important, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad. Yeah. So what do we do with those folks?
Well, first we help them learn how to get themselves grounded. You know, how to manage their anxiety, how to go into those experiences and recognize that their nervous system is gonna be, you know, jacked up a little bit, because that's normal when you're attracted to someone and you're interacting with them and you get a little bit excited. How do they tolerate that? How do they get themselves grounded? And then there's a lot of role playing, usually in group, on how do you make small talk? How do you let somebody know that you think they're interesting? How do you tolerate a rejection? How,
Yeah.
to the point of, I know people who will say, here's a barber that I want you to go see. Go get your hair cut. Go pay some attention to how you look and how you present yourself.
Oh, so you're
Getting
bringing
feedback on
barbers.
dating profiles or I mean, there is some of that, like how you carry yourself. I think, yeah, sometimes it is coaching.
Yeah.
That's, you know, that's a tough one, because I think, and I'm thinking of some addicts that are on the autistic spectrum who think that they're just fine the way they are. And so if you say, hey, you know, it might be a good idea for you to get a haircut, you know, as they're rearranging their hair, and they go, I think it's fine. I think it's just fine. So
Well, and it might be. And it might be fine. The question is do you want to engage with others, because others may have social expectations?
yeah.
And then it's a choice whether you want to make changes within yourself to meet others' expectations, which is a whole nother conversation, right?
Well, and it's interesting, because is this a therapist role or is this a coach role? Is this at that particular time, do we hand them off to a relationship coach, or I don't know, social skills class or coach.
All of the above. I think all of the above are good resources. And I think the therapist can be the coach too. I was just pointing out with the client may be just fine. You know, they might, I want to honor the introvert. But if they're choosing to want to make efforts for relationship, then they may need to change certain things or try certain things.
Oh, and that's what I'm saying. Like they're saying, I really do want to be in relationship. I really do want this. And they have resistance to hearing what they can do different to maybe be more attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say not just physically attractive, but attractive emotionally, attractive relationally, all those things. I think part of it might be helping them to identify who are, you know, helpful resources for them. I mean, I remember in my 20s, there were women I knew who would take me out and say, Tim, we need to get you new glasses because, you know, these sunglasses make you look like a fly. So let's help you sort of do stuff. And I am forever grateful to the people who took me under their wing and, you know, helped to sort of like get me in, you know, and I think that there are people out there. And sometimes it's helping our clients identify who are the helpful people out there. Who are the people you want to avoid, but who are the helpful people out there?
And I think you guys are putting on, you know, we're not trying to change someone's essence or their personality. I think that's an important point. Like you know, talk about, I'm an introvert and I don't live in an extrovert's world. I get in a party situation or big group and I want to hide in a corner. Like I don't like them. I get uncomfortable. I have social anxiety. So I have all this stuff. I'm not going to try to be an extrovert, but there's ways that I like who I am and I can make who I am work in a certain situation. I can learn some new skills, but I think we're not trying to change someone's essence. We're trying to help them meet the type of if they want to start dating to do that in a most, you know, set them up for success. I think that's the way I would look at it. Not trying to change who they are to be something else. And, you know, I don't know how, anyway, that's just, I don't know what you guys
think.
Thanks.
Thank you for that clarification. I was also thinking of one thing we didn't go into yet, but certainly there's got to be that exploration analysis of who am I attracted to? And the who's am I attracted to, is that a replay of maybe some childhood experiences? You know, why am I attracted to certain people? And is there a pattern of success or maybe a pattern of not success when being in relationship with others? So I think that's another thing about, am I ready to date? I would add to that criteria list of, have you explored your attachment patterns and which ones you're trying to not repeat?
Or has your attraction pattern been influenced by porn? You know, I often, you know, Rob Weiss will often say, look, when you're dating, being physically attracted to someone is an important part. But as an addict, you might say, I'm only dating them if they're a 10. In recovery, he will say, look, if they're not a 7, at least on your scale of 1 to 10, don't date them because there needs to be some physical attraction there. But you're not looking for the 10. You're looking for someone that I find attractive. And what are all the other characteristics and qualities that I also find attractive?
Yeah.
Let's circle back to the question we started with. When do you have the talk?
I think that depends on each person. But then I'd also say, and then talk with your recovery group to see when that would be appropriate. We all agreed of pre-sex. And I don't know, did we all agree not on the first date? Because that could be very off-putting.
Yeah.
Unless there's some circumstance, I think usually there's not enough built on the first date. It's just usually too much, I think.
Agreed.
So I think the first piece is for the person to practice what is going to be in the talk. What am I going to say? How much am I going to divulge? So, you know, they're not going to read their whole disclosure statement. Right?
Or their first step.
Or their first step to a potential partner. So what pieces are important to have in the talk and what pieces maybe aren't necessary at that particular time.
And I agree. I mean, it's not a first date. It may not even be a second date conversation. I mean, because in those points, and I'm going to I'm going to say it this way, in a normal, healthy dating progression, you're still getting to know the person. They're still getting to know you. You're still sort of figuring out, do I even want to keep dating this person a little bit longer and see if it fits out? That is not the place to dump, I'm a sex addict. You want to be further into the dating progression where you're like, I like them, they like me, I think there's something here. But it definitely has to be, and when we say before sex, for me, I always recommend, look, it's before intercourse, it's before oral sex, it's before manual sex, it's probably somewhere before or around making out with heavy petting. Where that is exactly, I think, people use their recovery guides, their wise counsel, as Jeannie and I often refer to them, to help you guide them. But it's before it becomes into that, hey, this is a more serious relationship with a sexual component to it.
Yeah. And one more point on the wise guides. I think it's also worth looking, as I'm thinking of what I might say, really exploring what comes up for me. I've had this theme play out for some of my clients that, well, they're going to reject me anyway, so let's just get it over with early so I don't have to, face the rejection. So they almost create this self-sabotaging scenario where it's too much. They put it out too soon, and it is too much, and then ultimately it kind of reinforces itself. So really coming in, I think that's a really good point, Wendy. Like, how much do you share? What do you put out there? How do you say it? Is this a confessional dumping where you're reading your disclosure? No, I wouldn't do that. But where it's with integrity, it's honest, it's transparent, it's said in the spirit of getting to know, and then giving informed consent. I think there's all those pieces, but how do you do it, I think, is obviously so individual, and having a good team of people that can help support you with that, I think, is critical.
I would also want to add in there of, it doesn't have to be a one-time talk. There's the introduction and maybe some important basics. And then if it's still in a conversation of the coupleship or developing this relationship, then share a little bit more, and then share a little bit more, so that it isn't this full story all at once. It's sex addict in recovery. This is what that means. This is what that's like for me. Do you want to talk about it? Can I offer you some information? I mean, there's a way to also progressively, as the relationship goes and the trust build, and to share more and offer more vulnerability.
Okay, so how do you all feel about starting off with, and I want to share with you that I'm in a 12-step program, and I also have I'm actively in therapy and counseling to start that way. It's a very soft start. I haven't said anything about sex addiction. 12, if the person they're talking to knows about 12-step, they're going to say, oh, it's got to be alcohol or drug or something, right? Some kind of compulsivity addiction. But how do you feel with that soft start? What I think is a soft start, and it might not be a soft start.
I like that soft start. I don't know that that's what I would do myself, but I like that soft start. What I like about it is that I really think that what we have to teach our clients is that dating is about finding out who the other person is and if you want to continue dating them. And when you put that out as a soft start, it gives me the opportunity to find out a little bit about who are they? How are they reacting to this information? How are they reacting to this possibility? Are they open? Are they hesitant? Are they judging? What am I finding out about them so that I can decide, are they somebody that I want to continue to date? Or we put it out softly and they're like, I would never date anybody who's in recovery. Okay, glad I put that out there, because eventually you were going to figure that out. Better now than 6 months in, when I'm feeling really more connected to you, and it's going to be devastating if you reject me because I'm in recovery.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I was thinking a soft start to your soft start. For example, of, hey, I want to have a serious conversation. There's some things I want to really talk about with you. And so, and I'm in a 12-step, and I'm in recovery, or whatever the other piece is, Wendy, I forgot, 12-step and something. So letting them know that, I mean, I wouldn't want to casually kind of throw that in to just see, you know, like a fishing line, throw it in, see what did you get? Because I want that person who's receiving the information having a moment of intentional grounding and listening. And so I'd be worried if it was kind of, Tim, like you were saying, like, hey, how do you feel about, because the person might be going off the cuff and just, but rather than, okay, wait a second, let me really think about this, because this is serious. There's an edge of seriousness and I don't know what it is, but I might suggest making it an intentional conversation.
Are you suggesting that dating should be not only fun, but also have like meaningful, serious sides to the dynamic and the relationship?
Well, I think I am, sir. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, I think this would be something, you know, how to say it, when to say it. I sometimes addicts take themselves too seriously, and sometimes they don't take themselves seriously enough. And so this is an edge that I'm really curious about, because I think an addict could say, okay, I need to talk to you something that's really serious. And the other person's like, wow, you know, we're just having coffee here, you know, like, wait a minute, you know. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, I love this topic because there how do we help people navigate these waters? So I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we will have another conversation for the betrayed partners of sex addicts who are no longer in a relationship with someone who has sex addiction. And so I hope you join us for that. And in the meantime, if you liked this podcast, please share it with people that you think would also enjoy it, and also give us a thumbs up, and anything else that you would like to promote this podcast.
And if you have questions about dating in recovery, or the best rivers to go kayaking down, or any other random questions out there you would like us to attempt to answer, put those questions in our mailbag at conversations.sar@gmail.com, and we will have a ball answering your questions in one of our mailbag episodes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.